Phoenix Splash TV. The Edge, one of the most innovative guitarists of all time. His style of guitar created a new kind of guitar player, and you can hear many of his atmospheric guitar styles in bands like Incubus and Coldplay. Along with his band U2, The Edge is considered one of the most successful rock stars of all time. Versus Sugizo, one of the main innovators of something I call the Sugizo motif or Sugizo's melody, and also shares that atmospheric guitar style. His motifs are used by many J-rock bands of all styles, from popular J-rock band Gazette to Korean rock bands like FT Island. And whether he's playing with X Japan or Lunacy or even his side projects, you'll know that he's there just by listening. Both of these guitar players put an emphasis on composition when it comes to guitar, and both of them pretty much created the distinct sounds within their respective bands. The Edge and Sugizo are two musicians that I have personally compared, as opposed to Hide and Kurt, where other sources and media compared the two. For some reason, the media will compare drummer of X Japan Yoshiki to singer of U2 Bono, probably due to wealth and popularity. U2 and X Japan are totally different bands, but if you analyze their members, you get two people who are in fact pretty similar. On this episode of Musician Battle, we have brought a special guest judge. We've brought Segalacious from the YouTube channel Oh So Jiggly. All of the other judges are musicians, and sometimes this can cloud enjoyment of a particular musician. So we brought in a casual ear to even things out, because the casual ear is the most important ear for music composers of this genre. We judged Sugizo and The Edge on 6 categories: guitar technical skills, guitar composition skills, soundtrack composition, rock and roll music composition, influence, and overall enjoyment. Now, these categories are different from the previous battle. We didn't want to rate vocal skills because while both Sugizo and The Edge sing backup and sometimes lead, they are not really known for their vocal skills all too much. We also took out stage presence. Though they can both be menacing live, neither are known for being a frontman. For each category, the judges will rate their skill on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the greatest of all time and 1 being not so great. At the end of the video, we'll add up all their scores and make one big score to determine who the better musician is. So let's not waste any time and let's find out how this matchup went down. First up is guitar technical skills. For this category, we were looking for who impressed us technically, who is flashier. For this category, The Edge scored a 7 out of 10, while Sugizo averaged an 8 out of 10. This one was pretty unanimous. Most of the judges agreed that Sugizo was the more technical guitar player, while our guest judge rated them both equally. Even with the unanimous decision, most judges only rated them 1 point apart. Judge 2, who is a guitar player, rated them 2 points apart. I think the main reason Sugizo won in this category was the fact that he utilizes a rhythm guitar player, Inoran. And The Edge just pretty much has himself to go off of. He doesn't have another guitar player to play with. The Edge has to focus on maintaining a big guitar sound, while Sugizo has more freedom. Now for guitar composition. In this category, we factor into how the guitar solos and guitar parts are composed. Are the parts interesting, or are they just playing power chords? For this category, Sugizo scored an 8 out of 10, while The Edge averaged a 6 out of 10. When I got these scores back from the judges, I was a bit confused. I personally thought that The Edge would thrive in this category, but the opposite happened. When I talked to some of the judges for this this outcome, they argue that Sugizo just offered a bigger variety. The Edge is known for taking a less is more approach, and now that I think about it, it kind of hurt him in this category. Sugizo played melodic solos, technical solos, and even flamenco-like solos in his individual work, while the Edge stuck to his guns. And when you're asked to rate the two side by side, it turns out that more is actually more in this case, especially if you have a rhythm guitar player. The special category for this musician battle is soundtrack style composition, music that isn't rock and roll. Believe it or not, both of them have written scores for movies and other outlets. We put the Edge's work from the movie Captive, Renoa's theme, and his work on the Batman cartoon, the Batman intro, against Sugizo's work on Tokyo Decibels and Sugizo's own soundtrack album Twisted Circle. In this category, the Edge came out on top with an 8 out of 10, while Sugizo averaged a 7 out of 10. In this category, the judges were pretty divided. 2 of the judges thought that the Edge's works were better, while 2 thought that Sugizo's were better. The ones that voted higher on Sugizo took note on the different instruments that he used in Tokyo Decibels, seeing as they were different than the ones that he played. The Edge won over the other 2 judges based on composition alone. I mean, that Batman song is just bittersweet. The judges that voted higher on the Edge saw a bigger difference in quality, which allowed the Edge to come out on top in this category. Now for probably the most important category, how well do they write the music that they are known for? In this category, we viewed U2 songs Bullet the Blue Sky, Sunday Bloody Sunday, Unforgettable Fire, and Streets Have No Name. We also viewed Lunacy songs like Deja Vu, In Silence, I For You, and Love Song. It's important to note that the Edge and Sugizo have a very different approach to composition. The Edge writes in a more collaborative sense, seeing how most of U2's songs credit U2 as a composer. Sugizo, on the other hand, will write most of the songs himself, while sometimes collaborating with other musicians to get their parts right. This category was unanimous. Sugizo came out on top, averaging an 8 out of 10, while the Edge earned a 7 out of 10. For most judges, it was a 1-point difference, but Judge 1 thought it was a 2-point difference. He mentioned to me that with the exception of Unforgettable Fire, U2's songs just weren't as structured and composed as the Lunacy songs. He mentioned that the U2 songs seemed to slightly drag on and repeat too much, while the Lunacy songs knew right when to stop. The other judges just simply thought that Sugizo's Lunacy songs were just slightly better. It's also worthy to note that I did not showcase With or Without You due to the Edge's role in composing that song being pretty minor. I also did not showcase Sugizo's ex-Japan song called Beneath the Skin because there hasn't really been anything officially released on that one. With that said though, I think the outcome would have probably been pretty similar or the same. Have you ever gotten to an argument over which musician's better, and then someone says, well, my musician sold more albums than yours, so my musician is better? That's what this category is for. Influence can mean many things, and with this musician battle, you will get to see how many different things that it can mean. For this category, the judges were pretty much everywhere. With all of the craziness, the Edge came out on top with an 8 out of 10, with Sugizo coming out with a 7 out of 10. Here's the Edge's score on his influence. Yeah, they're not as high as I thought they would be, with the exception of our guest judge. When I talked to some of the judges who scored the Edge low, they mentioned how a ton of people all over the world massively deleted one of their albums, and said that these days that is what U2 is known for. For those judges, that hurt U2's reputation, and in return hurt the Edge's score. Because when you're arguing influence, you want it to be positive. A good example of this is William Hung. More people know William Hung for his bad singing, but does that make him a better musician than a high-level vocal major at Juilliard? I don't think so. So with that, I can kind of see how some judges scored low on the edge. Some judges also scored Sugizo low in this category, the lowest rating being a 4, and the reason for this is merely because his influence is mainly in Japan, and that being an influence in Japan and being an influence in America is a really big difference. Some judges, like our guest judge and Judge 3, were able to look past U2's massive deletion and still score him high, while some judges actually scored Sugizo very high, all thanks to his famous riff that he made popular. And coming from a composer like me, it is a dream to get one of my motifs to identify a genre, and he joins a very small list of rock and roll composers that have accomplished such a feat, a list that even Hide and Yoshiki aren't on. These judges compared Sugizo to Dead Sea. That's kind of ironic. But while everyone knows My Chemical Romance and Green Day, few knew that Dead Sea pioneered much of what these bands did. Another example would be the band Thursday. They pioneered the emo genre of rock, but more people know the more popular emo bands. The judges were also impressed with Loudwire polls where X Japan was outvoting bands like Kiss, and this happened while Sugizo was in X Japan. But even with U2's big stain on their legacy, The Edge still came out on top, which is kind of a shame for Sugizo, but I do have to agree. America's big platform is hard to compete with. Even though Sugizo doesn't really have any negativity in this category, The Edge still came out on top. Overall enjoyment is, in my opinion, the most important category for any musician, no matter what genre. How much do you enjoy them? And this category was somewhat unanimous. The Edge scored a 7 out of 10, while Sugizo scored an 8 out of 10. Most of the judges enjoyed Sugizo more, with the biggest point difference being in our guest judge. The ones who didn't rate Sugizo higher rated them equal. One judge gave them both 9s, which I thought was pretty cool. Judge 1 scored Sugizo higher on everything else, but was still able to enjoy both of them equally. He stated that despite U2's reputation and The Edge's technical and compositional skills being inferior to Sugizo's, there's still something about him that makes him equally as enjoyable. Maybe it's the delay. Other judges rated Sugizo higher mainly due to the well-composed songs of Luna Sea in comparison to the U2 songs. Now for the final verdict. Overall, The Edge scored a 43 out of 60, 60 being the perfect musician, while Sugizo scored a 46 out of 60. In my opinion, this one could have gone either way with the influence score. If I had found 3 judges who thought the way that Judge 2 thought on influence, we might have seen The Edge come out on top here. However, the winner is Sugizo. Sugizo came out on top with his guitar technical skills, guitar composition, rock and roll music composition, and overall enjoyment, while The Edge came out on top in the special round soundtrack composition and influence. The biggest difference was the guitar composition, with The Edge earning a 6 out of 10, while Sugizo earning an 8. With all of this said, let's see what our guest judge, Segalacious from Oh So Jiggly, has to say.
Yeah, I have to say I'm pretty surprised at how one-sided the outcome was. In the end, I suppose I agree with Sugizo winning, but for me, it was only by the slimmest of margins. Sugizo was definitely more to my tastes overall, yet in the process of comparing these two musicians, I've developed a new respect for Edge that I did not have before. He has this trance-like style to his music that seems almost minimalistic in the way that he accomplishes more with less in terms of notes. His way of composing and performing songs is like a whole different philosophy compared to his opponent that is almost Taoist in the way that he gets his notes to shimmer to their maximum possible effect, with seemingly no more effort than what is strictly necessary. I mean, this guy is achieving sounds with a brightness and fullness that is very unique and stylized compared to other guitarists. Something that I disagree with the other judges on is soundtrack composition. As collaborative as this process may or may not be for an artist, I felt that the Edge's work is significantly superior to that of Sugizo's in this category. Also, I am not sure if I agree that Sugizo's motif really makes him more than or as influential as Edge. Put it this way, U2 was able to get their album Songs of Innocence installed on over 500 million iTunes devices in 119 countries. People started mass downloading an app that was specifically designed to remove U2's music from their devices. If you think about it, more people may have actually deleted music created by The Edge than have ever even heard of Sugizo. Now that, in my opinion, is influence. In the end, what really pushed Sugizo over the top for me was the simple fact that I subjectively experienced more enjoyment with Sugizo's music on guitar solos than The Edge overall. Hopefully no U2 fans will be too hurt or distressed by this outcome. Anyways, in case you didn't know, I've been Segalacious of the channel Oh So Jiggly. If you enjoy videos that analyze modern and retro video games, Shenmue and Virtua Fighter lore, then feel free to stop on by and visit us sometime. And Josh, participating in this video is a huge honor, and I know I've repeated this several times, but you and your channel are really an inspiration for me. Thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this.
And I have to give a big thank you to Segalacious for participating in this battle. It really means a lot to finally have him appear on this channel. So go check out his work if you're interested in the topics that he covers. Overall, I consider Sugizo's victory a decisive one, seeing how all the judges' individual totals had Sugizo come out on top, with the closest call being within our guest judge. With all of that said, it is important to keep in mind that this is all just for fun, and just a way to study the different attributes of each musician. My agenda is to not definitively say that one musician is better than the other, but to kind of have an understanding of each musician, and to try to find out what we can learn from dissecting them. For a judge to rate Sugizo higher in other categories, but equal in overall enjoyment, interests me a whole lot, and I'll probably question that judge until he's tired of hearing of me. So what do you think of this matchup and the categories? Do you think that they were chosen wisely? Do you agree with the winner? And if you're interested, all of the videos I showed the judges are located in the description below, so you're free to view them and judge for yourself. One of the commenters on Hide vs. Kurt actually scored them himself in the comments, which I found to be a pretty good idea. But if you do decide to do this, be sure to view the videos in the description, that way you'll have a better understanding on why the judges scored the way they did. But of course, you're not obligated to do that. You are also free to just have a normal discussion in the comments below. And anyways guys, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for watching. Really means a lot. This is Josh the Music Man, signing off.